My name is Randy Howell, and you're listening to the Faith and Fishing Podcast.
Welcome to the Faith and Fishing Podcast. I'm Cam.
And I'm Robert. In every episode, we're bringing you faith stories and fishing memories from some amazing members of the fishing community.
So join us as we shed a positive light on all things faith and fishing. Hey y'all, welcome back to the Faith and Fishing Podcast. I'm Cam.
Hey, and I'm Robert.
And we have, first let me apologize for not having an episode out last week. We had some scheduling things go on, and then I had to call it off at the last minute for a conversation with me and Robert because I was here by myself with the dogs, and so we're just down the road from Lake Benson, and Lake Benson had their fireworks display, and that it would have gone on right in the middle of our podcast, but right before our podcast, probably. So we typically record at 9. It was about, 8:45, and our neighborhood sounded like a war zone, and our dogs were not in great shape. So I ended up having to call it off. So, hope you enjoyed your 4th, and hope that you were able to have a fun time celebrating our independence, however you end up doing that. But Robert, how was your 4th, man?
Yeah, it was good. So we played baseball, and I was in Atlanta the week leading up to the 4th, or the week before the 4th, and got back and went to the beach and enjoyed Saturday and most of Sunday at the beach. And I actually came back and worked Monday on the 3rd, and I cut grass all day on the 4th. But we really celebrated and watched the fireworks on the 2nd, I believe, a Saturday night in Oak Island, and celebrated down there that weekend. And then just wanted to kind of stay ahead of the game as far as mowing and work goes. So, but it was good though. Looking forward to getting through this hot part of the summer. I know that's kind of this last we've been really, really lucky up until the last week or so. At least in North Carolina, it's been the mildest front part of the summer that I can ever remember.
Yeah.
But now I think we're gonna end up paying for that because it's humid and it's thick, and it's hot the last week or so.
The last week, I mean, we're talking heat indexes up into the 105, 108, 109. Feels like you're walking underwater, and it is miserable. But yeah, we so my family's tradition has been I didn't bring it with me, but our family's tradition for the 4th of July is we've always had a watermelon seed spitting contest. And so we have a crown that we make out of pipe cleaners, and whoever wins gets to keep the crown for a year. And by a very wide margin, I got the crown back this year. It's been a while since I've had it. And I think part of the reason that it's been so long since I've had it is the allergies that I've been dealing with. I haven't been able to take those deep breaths and stuff. And now working outside, since starting my job in the maintenance team that I'm on now from the bookstore, I went from daily 3 allergy medications down to 1.
Oh, wow.
And sometimes I don't do the 1 and I'm fine. Sometimes I don't do the 1 and I pay for it, but I can take a deep breath now, and I think that had a lot to do with it. But it was funny. My sister went out to find watermelon. She couldn't find one that had seeds in it. So we ended up doing our seed spitting contest with sunflower kernels this year.
Hey, whatever works.
But yeah, that was that's always a fun time. So the crown is here where it belongs for this year at least. So, but yeah, I have come to find that having two dogs with severe anxiety, I hate fireworks. I used to love them. I used to do some really stupid stuff with them, but I've kind of gotten grumpy in my adulthood of, man, I don't see the point of it, and I don't like them. And our neighborhood, I mean, I lost a video that I used to have on my phone that I took one year. It sounds like a war zone because like you have the guys that are out there lighting off the long string of firecrackers. It sounds like a machine gun. And I mean, over and over and over. And so the third, it was weird last night. So we're recording this on the 5th. Last night wasn't that bad, but the third, they had fireworks going until 1:30 in the morning. I finally fell asleep at 1:30 in the morning. I had the dogs with me with the TV on just to kind of drown it out a little bit to help them calm down. And I mean, 1:30 in the morning. How selfish do you have to be shooting off fireworks at 1:30 in the morning?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, and the dogs never like it that much. Luckily, mine tolerate them okay after the first initial couple of booms, and so our neighborhood's the same. I think it's every neighborhood. You know, if you live in a neighborhood, let's just say 40 houses, you're going to have 2 or 3 of them that just are going to shoot stuff off at all hours, and you have those people everywhere. So,
yeah, and I think part of it is I didn't grow up in a neighborhood. I grew up where you had to get in the car to see your neighbor's house. Like I'm still, even having, been in Raleigh since 2017, I'm not used to certain things about a neighborhood. Fireworks is one of them. Halloween is another one. I ain't never seen so many people in my life walking on the roads. I'm like, where did all these people come from? Because like trick-or-treating was something we had to get in the car to do, and we had certain people at the church that they had one bag of candy because we were there. My sister and I were their only trick-or-treaters because they didn't live, they lived on 100 acres of farmland. You had to, once you got on their driveway, you were still 3 miles away from their house. So,
yeah.
But anyways, yeah. So, well, that is kind of where we're at. I did get to take my son out to do a little bit of fishing Sunday morning. It was fun. We went over to Lake Raleigh, went on the little fishing pier, and I was using a high-low rig with little hooks and worms that I dug out in the backyard. And man, I didn't count how many we caught, but we fished till we ran out of bait. And I mean, it was every cast. It was over and over and over again. And it was funny. It's the first time in my life I've ever caught one fish on 2 hooks, because the bluegill ate the top one and then went down and grabbed the second one too.
Huh. That's interesting.
And then we didn't end up landing it because we ended up pulling the bluegill out of its mouth, but we had a big bass come up and grab the bluegill while it was on the line. It was probably 4.5 pounds, maybe 5.
Oh wow!
But it came up, almost pulled the rod out of mine and Henry's hands because we were fighting the bluegill. I had the rod and Henry was turning the handle on the reel. And that thing, I watched it come up, and it was just a big mouth underneath it. Just grab it and go down with it.
Oh, that's cool.
It was really cool. And so we almost caught 2 fish on 1 hook and 1 fish on 2 hooks, but we didn't catch 2 fish on 2 hooks.
Say that 10 times fast.
So yeah, that was fun. And we, right across the way, there was on one of the other little docks, there was a dad and his two sons that were probably in the, I don't know, 10, 11-year-old range. And I didn't know this at the time, but I walked over afterwards and said, hey, you know, that corner right there that we were on, like they're all fired up and like they're active right now. And I mean, we did pretty good on them if y'all want to head over there. And he was like, yeah, my sons were asking to go over there because they kept watching you catch them over and over and over again. We're like, we're not going to go interfere on their territory. So, but we were talked to him for a minute, and then we were walking up the hill and we heard, Dad, I got a nibble over here already. So that was pretty cool.
That's cool. Yeah. Yeah. Those days are fun, just to go out there and with some light gear and, you know, wormfish. And yeah, I have just as much fun those days as I do bass fishing, especially when the kids are involved. And, I mean, doesn't matter what I'm catching. And we sat at the dock at the Intercoastal and caught pinfish that, I mean, is the same way. They're about the size, smaller than bluegill probably. And I mean, we kept downsizing hooks until we got a hook small enough that we could actually fit it in their mouth. But Ryder was getting mad because he couldn't hook one. And I would say, just watch and I'll show you. And he's almost 16. He's almost driving a car. And, you know, I was still catching a couple. And then I was like, all right, here, you try it. And he still couldn't get it. And then finally he got the hang of it and started popping them pretty good. But that's where all that creek fishing way back when you're trying to catch minnows with little bitty hooks comes into play, and it makes hooking those smaller fish seem pretty easy when you've hooked a bunch of creek minnows, because that's all that was in the creek we used to fish in.
Right.
Yeah.
And props to one of his sons. One of his sons' name was Simon, and I'm trying to remember the other one, and I can't remember. His name was Colin, but I don't remember which son it was. But props to him for asking the right questions. He came over and asked. He said, "So whenever you were over there, were you fishing under a bobber, or were you fishing on the bottom?" And asking all these questions, and it was the right questions.
There you go.
So props to him. But yeah, let's thank a couple sponsors, and then we'll kind of dive into kind of what we were going to discuss tonight, and kind of figure out what's going on with Faith in Fishing and with each of us so far this year.
Sounds good.
Mr. B Lure Company is making high quality handcrafted lures and has been for 30 years right here in the U.S. Using all metal components, Owner and Gamakatsu hooks, and silicone or frog hair skirts, Mr. B is pumping out some awesome spinner baits, jigs, buzz baits, underspins, and more, including some of the most unique bladed jigs on the market. To fill up your tackle box, go to MrBLureCompany.com, that's MRBLureCompany.com, and use promo code FaithInFishingPod1X10 at checkout to save 10% on your first order. That's Faith the letter N, Fish the letter N, P-O-D, so Faith in Fishing Pod, just like our Instagram handle, 1X10.
Get Outdoors Pedal and Paddle is one of the largest canoe, kayak, and cycling retailers in the Southeast, with a huge selection of kayaks, canoes, bikes, and all the accessories needed to experience paddling and cycling comfortably and safely. Get Outdoors helps to expand and educate the paddling community through their free demos held on local lakes in the Greensboro, North Carolina area, and through in-store clinics and on-the-water courses and demos. And we'll even get your new boat rigged up for kayak fishing for you. Stop by the shop in Greensboro, North Carolina, or check out shopgetoutdoors.com to be wowed by their selection.
All right, so I did want to mention one other thing. Something we typically don't do a lot of on the show is talk about our social media and stuff like that. So just wanted to let you know, head on over to Instagram. We're at Faith and Fishing Pod. And on Facebook, we have our kind of community, the Faith and Fishing community. So search the Faith and Fishing group on Facebook, and head on over there, check us out. We're also on YouTube. Right now, the episodes of the podcast are the only thing that's up there, but hopefully at some point we will start adding a few things to that here and there. But and make sure you check out Outdoors to Go on all those platforms as well, because that's our buddy Robert over here, who just decided to blink out of the episode there for a minute. So,
yeah, I don't know what caused that. I saw it. I thought it was you, but it was probably me.
I have no idea. I got worried there for a second.
Came right back on. But Outdoors to Go. And then I'm working on a new project, and I kind of delve into that a little bit today for the first time, and there'll be more to come on that. I want to get a couple of episodes, so to speak, before I release that. But I think that's going to be a fun little project too, and that'll be under a different headliner. It'll be under the Outdoors to Go. Will kind of be the main one, and then this one is just going to be spotlighting some kayak fishing stuff. So that'll be fun.
Absolutely, and that's something you and I have talked about in the past, and I think you, if you're listening to this, you're going to want to stay tuned to know where to find that, because that's going to be worth keeping track of for sure.
Yeah.
So Robert, here we are in early July, and I did not think of the topic for tonight until, I don't know, it's 9:34. We started recording at like 9:15. I don't know. I thought of it about 40 minutes ago. So I did not go back and listen to our beginning of the year episode where we talked about our goals and everything. So if I had have thought about it earlier, I would have gone back and listened to that and wrote down what our goals were and everything. But how do you feel like you're doing on your goals so far this year, man?
Well, that's a great question. I think that probably, like, I don't remember exactly what I had set out as a goal for the year, but I definitely wanted to qualify for the year-end Bassmaster tournament from North Carolina. That's not going to happen. So I was trying to concentrate on the Central Kayak Fishing schedule because that matched up better with baseball, and got through the first tournament okay. I think I may have went and caught a fish, and then I had something to do to go to the second one. I zeroed in, I'm pretty sure. Still felt like I could probably qualify, and then the baseball schedule changed, and I think the third one I missed. And at that point, with as many great anglers that fish these local trails, you're going to be hard pressed to get into the top 30%, I think is what they're doing to qualify. So now I've missed several of both trails, CCKF and the CKA trail, and really haven't placed that good in the ones that I have fished. So now I'm just hoping to get some time in between baseball, basketball, softball, cross country, You get the picture. Trying to see how many more of those tournaments I'll be able to fish and just go have a good time and, not worry about qualifying for something. And really since the first of the year and since last year, kind of my outlook on the whole reason that I'm love to do the tournaments and stuff. I like the competition. I like to have a measuring stick to measure myself against. But also I like just the camaraderie. I like just doing it. So having to qualify for something is not really on the top of my list anymore. It's just going, having a good time and, hanging out with the fellow anglers that are around the area. So, hopefully I can line up a few more of these towards the end of the year and, have some fun fishing days in there too. Hopefully catch some redfish and some trout at the coast as well, mixed in with that. So that's been another monkey wrench that's kind of been thrown in. My fishing cycle is trips to the beach and trying to figure that out. And really we've only had, we've done some surf fishing and just throwing some lines out of the intercoastal around some docks and stuff. And then me and Ryder have taken the kayaks out one quality time. We did catch fish, but not the targeted species. So that's going to take a little bit more persistence and figuring out kind of the patterns and stuff, because that's something I'm not real familiar with. So I've got a big learning curve there to tackle the next year or so I can get myself more acquainted with what that takes. So that's a fun process as well. That really sums up my first half of the year. So not probably where I want to be, but totally content with where I am.
Right. So yeah, for me, I will say I have not done a good job of keeping up with my goals, because especially from a content creation standpoint, because I don't know if anybody has noticed, there have been 0 videos posted on my on personal or Faith and Fishing YouTube page. I have recorded myself fishing a grand total of 1 time this year. So definitely need to work on that. Still have some ideas that I would really like to get going, but just has not been in the cards this year because I just have not been able to get out on the water this year. I have fished in 1 CCKF tournament, and I have fished 1 other tournament. Did get to travel for that paddle and fin tournament. Now, I think I've been on the kayak twice since then, and that was in April. So
yep.
I've done.
Time gets away from you.
It does.
Time rolls on by.
It does, and whenever you've got a job that it keeps you on call every 5th week, which really isn't that bad. But whenever you throw other things into it, I had that stretch where I had my hurt back and other things go on, and it was just, it just all of a sudden it's like, man, I haven't fished in 2 months, other than like 15-minute sessions with Henry here and there. So that's been my year so far. Did get at that first trip of the year, got that PB. So I have that going for me for 2023. But other than that, it has been a pretty slow year in terms of fishing and content creation and all of that good stuff. So we're in that part of the year where it is more difficult for me to do things than normal because I've got that seasonal depression of it's too hot and I really want to do it, but I can't do it. So I'm upset because I can't do it. And there's storms every night, and night is whenever I'm able to get out if I were to do anything, and that kind of, it just piles on. And you sit there and it's like, I have all of these things that I need to do, and I've actually got 10 minutes to do it, and I sit there and I watch TV. It's like, and so got that kind of thing going on, and so hopefully we can kind of turn the corner here and get a few extra things going in July, and kind of carry momentum into August and all that good stuff. But what have you got planned for the rest of the year, man?
Yeah, the rest of the year, like I said, I'm hoping just to match up some weekends that are open with the ball. We'll still be going to the beach some in between that. I'm probably going to try to start fishing some afternoons and evenings. Usually I can get out of work at 1:30 or 2. So, I mean, it's not getting dark until 9 or after 9 now. So that leaves quite a bit of afternoon time. I try to hit some of these local spots. I'm hoping actually that the tournament we were talking about, the Raleigh Rumble, I'm hoping we're supposed to play baseball that weekend, I think. But I'm hoping there's maybe a schedule change on that. I'm not real sure, but I was going to try the next couple of weeks maybe to hit a couple of these local Raleigh lakes and check out where would be a good place to fish for that if I'm able to fish that. But after that, I really haven't planned out a whole lot. Just going to the beach some, trying to learn more about those saltwater fish, the redfish and the trout. I'm hoping before the end of the summer. I want to get the kayak out, past the surf and troll for some Spanish mackerel in it. That's intriguing to me, and some bluefish out there. I think I have a lot of experience doing that out of a boat, just not out of a kayak. But there are a lot of people that have YouTube channels that do that on a daily basis, and they're going out with the kayaks jigging on some of these artificial reefs and stuff. And I kind of been, feeding my face with some of those YouTube channels, and it's pretty intriguing watching some of those guys battle. Like, I watched one today, and he was catching like 3-foot long amberjack. And, you think catching a bass is awesome. And just watching him trying to reel this amberjack in on his kayak. I think he's in an Old Town, maybe like a salty 120, something like that. And it's pretty amazing what these guys can do with those kayaks out there in the open water. So I'm hoping to attempt that at some point before wintertime gets here, and then just to try to fish these bass tournaments whenever I can. So that's really what I've got kind of tentatively planned. What about yourself?
Well, I will say, I mean, I'm with you there on the saltwater stuff. I mean, that was what got me into kayak fishing was watching those guys that were going out on the flats and stuff, and catching reds and stuff, and it was that's what kind of clicked with me, was like, I can do that. I can kayak and do that. And then I got into those videos where they're fighting these massive amberjacks and marlin and stuff. And it's like, I don't know if I can do that or not, but I want to.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be tough. I mean, catching something like an amberjack and it take a big run straight down, it would be tough to stay right side up. Because if you got your That's one of those, you have to keep your rod forward in front of you.
Yes, exactly.
Because
So
if you've got it off to the side and it goes straight down like that, and your drag doesn't catch, or your drag doesn't go right, you're turtling.
Yeah. So I've watched that several times when these fish will hit, the kayak anglers, and they basically have the rod where the line is kind of by your right hand foot or your left hand foot, almost grazing the kayak as it's going down. So that rod tip is pointed more toward the front of the kayak than out to the side. Now you will see one of the guys I was watching today too hooked into I think a mangrove snapper, and it was like it was a huge snapper, but that, I mean, the NK300 or the new Torqeedo 1103 had nothing on that damn snapper. That snapper was pulling that kayak just as fast as any of those motors would. That dude was moving, and actually the fish was pulling him so fast that the other people that were kayak fishing around him that literally struggled to get out of his way because the fish was pulling him into the other people on the kayaks. So it's interesting to watch that, and just the small stuff like where the rod's pointed at. I also like a lot of them will include their trips from the beach through the surf. And once you get through the surf, it's pretty easy going for them most of the time. Or they, on the rougher days, they're not out there anyway filming. But the days that they film, once they get through that, the first break, they're pretty good to go. But it's interesting to me knowing how those kayaks are, like, what is this dude doing to get through that first break without dumping everything? Because that's my biggest fear, is to go and get sideways and get everything dumped out into the dang surf right there. But that's interesting to watch too. So I have picked up some tips and tricks for that just by watching how they maneuver through that. So it's interesting, and it'll be it'll be a fun video to make. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I've been pulled by some fish before. And it's one of those things. It's like, it's really fun, but it's also really nerve wracking because there's only so much you can do to control it. If you're at the point of getting pulled like that. I tail hooked a carp that was probably 25, 30 pounds one time, and I could not turn it in any direction because it was hooked in the tail. And it pulled me up the creek and then back down the creek and then into a tree and all this. And I imagine being hooked onto one of these like jacks or something that can really go. It's like, man, that would be a ride.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But yeah, in terms of goals for me, I'm kind of at the point of like, my goals are to do a little bit more fishing. I am going to be fishing the Raleigh Rumble, and I know which lake I'm going to be on. I haven't been on that lake this year, so I don't know how it's fishing this year. So it could be interesting. But so there's two lakes on the schedule, or on the Raleigh Rumble, that I know pretty well. And one of them I've caught some big fish in this year. But last year it was a busy lake on the tournament. There were a bunch of people fishing that lake. And the other one I know really well, and there were not a bunch of people fishing that lake, and I would rather take my chances with not a bunch of people. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. My goal for the Raleigh Rumble is to cash a check. This is the one tournament of the year that I feel confident in. And I feel like I would have done much better last year had I not lost my catch board. Because last year, I think I finished 17th. I had one fish flop off the board at the very beginning that if I had caught it, I think I would have been in 11th. And then if like even if that didn't happen, had I have not lost my catch board, I would have at least had a limit and still 2 hours left to fish. So a lot could have happened in that 2 hours. And I feel like I was on a good pattern. And the other guy who was fishing right next to me for most of the day finished third. So I feel like I could have done more than I did. So I feel like if there's a tournament that I have a shot at, it's this one. So I'm gonna hope for the best on that one, and then depending on how things go, I would like to try to fish the Jordan event later this month. Never fished Jordan before, so we'll see how that goes. But that's it for my tournament season, unless somehow I end up making the Clash of the Titans and it lines up with my schedule that I can actually fish it. I'm not holding out for that one. Unless something special happens in the Raleigh Rumble, I don't think that's going to happen. But
hey, just go win it. Go win it. You'll be qualified for it.
Yeah, I would. It's a lot easier said than done, but
just have to visualize it. Visualize it happening.
I don't know. There's some. Last year there were some hammers in those top three spaces. One guy was the guy who won it was Brian Shulkus, who got Angler of the Year in both Central Carolina Kayak Fishing and Carolina Kayak Anglers, and then and the guy who got second was a guy named James who is out at a particular lake. I met him out on the lake, and he is out there a lot. And then there's other guys out there that are also like they are on certain lakes. Like this is their chance to get those lakes in, just like me.
Yeah.
So this is
that's the thing with the Raleigh Rumble. You got some guys that fish those lakes a lot. But
we don't like fishing the big water.
Yeah, it's the same with with me and Harris. Though I should do better at Harris than what I have done. And even Jordan, I usually do decent at Jordan. That's the two places I fish most of the time. But everybody's going to have their little hometown lakes and try to make a run at it. But a lot of those guys too, I've been seeing some people on Instagram posting pictures and stuff. They're already practicing up for it.
Oh yeah, they have been.
Yeah.
And like I said, there are certain guys that's the only place they fish, and they fish there weekly. So I mean, they know it really well. But we'll see how it goes. I mean, that's what's special about the Raleigh Rumble is it gives these smaller fisheries a chance to shine a little bit.
Oh yeah.
So yeah. But past July, I don't really know. I mean, I would love to get some more content out there, and a lot of it is just doing it. I've got a bunch of pictures that I could have posted and just haven't, and I have not done a good job of keeping up with Instagram and stuff in terms of like doing more than just like weekly episode announcements. So not really doing much for the algorithm there, but
sometimes life gets in the way of the algorithm stuff though. And you know what? That's okay too. Unless you have aspirations of quitting your job and being a full-time YouTuber or making your money, shooting videos and Instagram,
And
you really have to put time and effort into it. And as I've been diving a little deeper into some of these kayak guys and just seeing how much time and effort some of these people are putting into it, not only with the YouTube videos and the normal Instagram post, but also the YouTube shorts, which if I watch the short videos like that, it's usually on Instagram Reels or TikTok. Sometimes I'll go down a hole on TikTok. But I don't mess around that much with the YouTube shorts. But it's interesting to me here lately while I've been researching some of these kayak guys, that seems to be the new faster path to get, your subscriber numbers up, is to do a ton of shorts. And even a lot of the podcast guys are clipping their videos and, just say me and you make, say something that's, catches somebody's ear in a 30-second clip. They're making shorts of those little clips of the podcast. And it was really amazing to me when I started looking into that more, how many of those shorts are out there like that, just of clipped other videos. And I have watched the videos or listened to the podcast, and now I'm running across the shorts of the clips of those.
And it's sad. I'm sitting on a lot of those clips that I just haven't posted. I think I posted 2 or 3 of them earlier in the year, and then just stopped doing it.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things that if you let it, it could take up your whole life. And that's the other thing is, like I said, if you want to do that and you want that to be your job and you're going to work 8 hours a day at that, and that's what you're going to do, you're going to go fish for 6, or maybe you go fish for 8 one day, and then the next day you edit for 8 and you post stuff. And then the next day you fish for 8, and the next day you edit for 8.
And what it really ends up being is you fish for 4 and then you edit for 12, and then you fish for 8 and then you edit for 24. And I mean,
it's a lot of work.
That's what really it comes down to, is these guys that are super successful in like doing social media and YouTube and stuff like that. They just work harder than everybody else.
And they figured out the sleep patterns better than myself, because I'd like to get 8 hours of sleep. But I'm telling you, these dudes are staying up editing all night, going to sleep for 2 or 3 hours and going back fishing and shooting more content, and then doing the same thing, the next night, staying up till 2 o'clock in the morning, edit videos. And man, I just can't. Maybe if I was 20 again, you could replace the things that I was doing at 20 years old, staying out until 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and you could substitute editing videos until then. I can see how that would work. But, not when you're 50. It just, I got to have some sleep. It's not, it's not worth it to me.
And a lot of these people are, they're working full-time jobs. So they're, a lot of people, like we talk about doing this for a living full time, but the percentage of people who are doing it full time and have quit their day job, so to speak, very, very small.
Yeah. And by no means am I, playing down. I'm hats off to all these dudes and dudettes that are doing this. Because I love watching it, and I hope they continue to put out great content, because, that's one reason that the Outdoors to Go brand was started in my head, was like, okay, I want to provide something where somebody can watch it if they're not able to go do it. And then, that's what I do. If I'm not able to go do it, I want to live vicariously through Greg Blanchard and go see what he's doing out on the Delta. So my hat's off to all those dudes that are putting in the work.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's continue this conversation in just a minute, but first, let's thank a couple sponsors. If a fly rod is your weapon of choice, check out Atollas. Their Fly Caddy is the most convenient way to get your favorite flies to the water or just keep them handy by clipping it to your hat, truck visor, backpack, rod case, or just whatever. You can also bundle it up with flies from independent fly tires that Atollas has teamed up with through their Fly Light project. Choose from bundles specializing in redfish, carp, saltwater, or freshwater. Head over to atollas.co, that's ATOLLAS.co, to get your Fly Caddy today and use promo code FAITHINFISH15 to save 15% on your order. That's Faith the letter N, Fish the number 15 at checkout for 15% off.
A huge selection and crazy fast shipping is already enough to turn heads as an online tackle shop, but Omnia Fishing sets themselves apart with their ambassador program. With Omnia, you can send in fishing reports for your local lakes that recommend baits, structure, tactics, and gear. And when another angler takes your advice and purchases something from your report, you get credit for it to spend at Omnia. The best part means that with Omnia Fishing, you can shop by lake and purchase baits and gear that are proven to work where you're fishing. To get started, go to omniafishing.com and use promo code FNF15 to save 15% on your first order.
All right. So actually, I was just looking at my Omnia profile during that ad because I got a notification that I got some credit because somebody purchased something from one of my reports, and I'm looking at it, and it's a Raleigh Rumble Lake.
There you go.
And I'm kind of second guessing whether or not I should have posted it. No, that's a joke. But I mean, I'll tell you, like, if we meet on the water and I'm catching them and you're not, and we're in the middle of a tournament, I'll tell you what I'm catching on. I don't have any problem with that whatsoever. But yeah, just that's a funny one. So yeah,
I'll hit on that a little bit of the Omnia stuff too, because that's one of those things where, last year that was one of my deals. I was like, okay, I am going to get to gold level. I am going to do enough fishing reports. I have enough data and film and to go back and know what I was using and do these reports on all these lakes. And speaking of the gold status, I see that you have also moved up to gold status, right?
I have, yeah. I have moved up to gold.
I saw that. I didn't notice it.
Partially because they changed their stipulations, like what it was that they needed.
I didn't know that it changed. I just saw your thing went from like silver to gold. So I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
So maybe they didn't, but I thought that they changed it from being, they changed
I think it was 15. They may have lowered the number.
So I think they changed it from like 15 in a certain time frame to 15 total.
I got you.
I got you. But yeah, they changed it. Now I'm looking at this stipulation to get to the blue level, and I'm like, I feel like I can do that. It just takes 30 minutes while I'm on the water, but it's like, but you got to do it. So,
yes. Yeah. Well, this the whole thing. Like I was the same thing as you. Like 2 or 3 months ago, I don't even know if I got a notification or I went on there to order something, and then up in the right hand corner, I was like, oh, wait a second. I've got a credit. And so I went back, and then you can go back and see what they ordered from what lake they ordered and what they ordered. And now I actually have three credits from people that have bought 3 different baits from the reports I've put in. But for all you guys and girls that are listening to this, that's an easy way. And that's something you can kind of hang your hat on is, hey, I'm a gold ambassador with Omnia. And, and also at the same time, that earns you money for free baits.
Yeah.
You can use those credits to get stuff from Omnia, or, if you want to do a $50 order and you have $15 of credit, obviously, you just take that $15 off, and that's what I do. I mean, it's a win-win situation for everybody involved. It's a win for the anglers that are putting these reports in, because you have something to show other prospects that you may be trying to work deals with. It's a win for the anglers who are looking up the lakes. So I did it the other day, and I don't remember. Oh, I know what it was. We went to play baseball in Atlanta. And I looked up, and I'll get the name of this wrong, but there's a couple of larger lakes that are north of Atlanta. One of them is Lanier. The other one, I think how you pronounce it, is Alatoona Lake, and it sucker was daggone, 15 foot of damn visibility. And for a Tennessee boy, that is not what I'm comfortable with. And I hate those damn clear lakes. I couldn't even get a damn bite. But I did look it up, and I was throwing the correct things that whatever ambassador it was, had down for that lake. So it's a win for, the anglers are turning in reports. It's a win for the people looking up these lakes, because if you're traveling or whatever, like we were, and we're just like, oh, let's go to this lake. I was like, oh, I'm going to pull up Omnia and see what, the hot baits are or whatever.
Yeah,
and then on top of that, it's a win for Omnia. I mean, what a great way to promote their business, and an online tackle retailer who gives you clues of these lakes that you may not fish all the time. So it's a win all the way around. So I love that service they're providing, and
Absolutely.
I love providing them with those reports that may help somebody else out that's maybe not from the area or a new angler on a lake. It's pretty cool.
And I don't know if you've played around with it yet, but the new feature for I think it's for gold members and up. They have so like right now I'm looking at Lake Crabtree has their like water temperatures.
Yes.
On there, which average of 86 degrees on Lake Crabtree right now.
I was going to say, what are the dates on there? Because when they first rolled that out, I looked at a few lakes, but the dates were like a week behind. But they may have updated it, and it may be fine now. And it may be. And 86 sounds about right, because even 2 weeks ago, the water temperature wouldn't have been 86.
So that was today.
Yeah. So it may vary by lake too, and when they can get that information, but that's pretty cool that they have updated information from today on there.
Yeah, and I'm looking at it over at the dam, which you would expect this to be less than this, but or more than this, because the dam is the deepest part. It's 88 and 87.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's some hot water, man.
Yeah, those fish are going to be way down there now.
I know where they're going to be. I'm not going to say it on air right now. If you want to know where they'll be, send me a DM.
I'm not going to fish. I'm not going to fish that lake for the Rumble. If I fish a lake, it's going to be the same one I fished last year.
Well,
Crowded or not, I'm rolling, baby. If I get off, if I don't have
anything to do with that one.
I know exactly where I'm fishing at too, and I know what I'm throwing.
Well, good for you.
Yes.
I have not figured that one out even in the least. So.
I didn't figure it out either, but I watched that joker catch a ton of fish last year, and I've got to go back to it a little bit these next couple of weeks and make sure that's going to hold true. So something I'm not real comfortable with, a technique that I don't use a whole lot, but I'm going to try it out. And even if I don't get to fish the Riley Rumble, I want to go catch some of those tanks he was catching. So it'll be fun. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So, Yeah, we before the end of the year, where do you want to see yourself in terms of faith? How are you doing in terms of your faith goals, and where are you sitting there?
That's a good question. So we last week, my older two kids and my wife went to Jamaica. So they got back the last week of June. They were down there for 7 days.
They're on fire right now.
What's that?
So they're on fire right now.
Oh, yeah. And definitely, my youngest, so my oldest son is 19. He's at NC State. My daughter is 17. She'll be a senior at Fuquay. And my youngest son is almost 16, and he's going into his sophomore year at Willow Springs. They all three have great heads on their shoulders, but none of them realize truly how good everybody in the United States has it. And if you're not doing well, there's an opportunity to do well here. And going to Jamaica and seeing what those young people have to deal with on a daily basis, and seeing their attitudes towards it, because they don't know any different, and they are just as happy having to walk a third of a mile to the spring to get all the water that they need in buckets and bringing it back. I mean, that's just part of what they do. So they're laughing, cutting up just like normal kids would be here. But I can't imagine it telling my kids at some point that they were going to have to walk a third of a mile every day with 4 buckets to get the water we needed to take baths and drink and all that stuff. But it really puts things in perspective of what's important. And, all of the stuff that we do, podcast, YouTube, social media, Facebook, Instagram, at the end of the day, none of that stuff matters. And it's good to kind of, even though I didn't go, just seeing what my family came back from and hearing their stories really makes you yourself take a step back and say, well, what is important, and what do I need to be focused on? So for the rest of the year, my focus is going to be on, just trying to honor God in everything that I do. And I say this at a lot of the end of when I pray is, let my actions and words bring people closer to you. And, that's really what I try to focus on. And with them going down there and just kind of them refocused and me kind of hearing their stories and refocusing me, is just continue that. We've also started volunteering quite a bit of Sundays when we are in town, back to the elementary school youth hall on our church. So we'll rotate in and teach those classes for the elementary school side. So even doing that always has probably helped me more teaching those young kids than sitting in the service. Now, don't get me wrong, the services are great too, and there's some great messages. But I feel like if you do that every Sunday, at some point, it's almost, you almost put the blinders on. That's something, okay, here we're going to church. We're going to hear the sermon, and you hear it for that hour, 15 minutes. And then you might think about it, talk about it on the way home. And then you kind of tuck that away until the next week at the same time. And then you go and do that again. But to me, being able to teach young kids, that seems to stick with me longer throughout the week, just maybe the impact that I had on them than sometimes the sermon does. And then, there are other times you can go hear the sermon and, kicks you in the butt and is exactly what you needed to kind of get yourself back on track. So, I love those as well. But that's kind of my focus, is just trying to keep helping our church out with the youth program, and then just focusing on what I can do to bring people closer to God, and then also being the best leader I can for my family and making sure I'm helping my family with their pursuit of Jesus Christ as well.
For sure. Yeah, for me, I think, I mentioned earlier, I'm kind of sitting in an emotional slump right now. And I think something for me is if I could just push past the fog and just reach out to somebody, reach out to, we've got this awesome community on Facebook of, the Faith and Fishing group, where the whole point of this was, like-minded anglers praying for each other. And, luckily we've got Alfonso, who is actually, trying to keep this, keep conversation going in this group. But if I could just, reach out, there's so many people in that group that would bend over backwards if I reached out to them just to say, hey, I need you to pray for me, or I need just some sort of emotional support or something. They would just absolutely be there for me. And they have been for other things. And it's just one of those things where it's so I think that's something for me that I want to really push for the end of the year, is kind of pushing to not only reach out to people for my own benefit, but to keep that group going, to kind of, build that camaraderie within the group and everything. So not exactly sure how I'm going to do that, but that's speaking it into existence right now. That's a goal I want to push for. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, man. Well, we are right at the hour mark, so let's thank some sponsors, and then we'll close it out in prayer.
Sounds good.
If finesse fishing is your comfort zone, something you want to learn better this year, or just something you like to tie on as a Hail Mary pass, Jade's Jigs has everything you need and more, and it's all eco-friendly and lead-free. With an awesome selection of baits and colors, they've got a variety of techniques covered for you. Finesse jigs, underspins, Nico weights, Ned rigs, and more are all waiting for you at jadesjigs.com. And while you're there, use promo code FNF10 for 10% off your purchase. That's jadesjigs.com and promo code FNF10 for 10% off. Few things ruin your day on the water as bad as losing gear. But with the retrieval devices for fishing rods, action cams, bow fishing bows, and more from Save Your Outdoors, you don't have to let dropping your stuff ruin your day, because you can get it back. The pressure-sensitive filter keeps water from rain and quick dips in the water out, but it lets water in when your gear goes overboard to release a float attached to your gear by 60 feet of line so you can get it back. Go to SaveYourOutdoors.com to learn more and try some for yourself, and use promo code FNFP15 to save 15% on your order. That's SaveYourOutdoors.com and promo code FNFP15. Forgot to add us back into the podcast there.
I like how it kind of slid over there anyway. You may need to start doing that every time like that.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and pray, man.
All right.
God, thank you for the opportunity that we have to sit here on the podcast and talk about fishing and talk about you and talk about and talk about whatever we want to talk about. And thank you for allowing us to live in a country that we can do that and not worry about any kind of repercussions or anything like that. God, thank you for everyone who is listening to this right now. No matter no matter what they're going through, no matter where they are, no matter when they're listening to this. Pray that you meet them right where they are, and that there is something in this podcast that touches them, and brings them closer to you. Pray that you continue to put on a show through this podcast and in this podcast, and continue to let this podcast be a beacon of hope for people, and pray that you continue to shine through it and through Robert and myself, and continue to bless us and make us into the leaders that you need us to be in the fishing community, in our own, in our physical communities, in our families, and wherever it is that we end up being. God, we love you, and it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, man. Well, did you have anything you needed to add before we?
No, I don't think so, man. That was a pretty good off-the-cuff show. I enjoyed it.
Absolutely. And there was one other thing that I needed to mention. I meant to mention at the beginning of the podcast, but Jackson Orr is doing his catch tournament, and it is actually at the end of this month this year. I don't know if it's if this is going to be the only one for the year or not, but go ahead, if you're whether you are planning on fishing it or not, go ahead and get signed up, because the top winners of the tournament get to choose what charity they donate the winnings to. So no matter whether you're fishing or not, that money is going to go to a good cause. It's going to go to a good, it's going to be used for something special. Last year, I think we had them on the podcast. I know Save JT is where one of the, I think that's where Dave sent his to.
Yeah, that's right.
But then there was a lot of local charities that to the winners. So all kinds of different things. And so make sure that you're getting signed up. I don't have it pulled up right now, like when the tournament is. I want to say it's the weekend of the 28th of July. But I'll have it in the show notes, the link to sign up, and also the information on that, so that if I get it wrong, it's right in the show notes. So make sure you check that out. But yeah, I think that is going to do it for this episode. Y'all take care, and God bless.
See you guys.
Thank you for listening to the Faith and Fishing podcast. Faith and Fishing is produced and hosted by Cam Steele and Robert Randolph, and is sponsored by Savior Outdoors, Jay's Jigs, Get Outdoors Pedal and Paddle, Mr. B Lure Company, Atollas, and Omnia Fishing. Don't forget to join the Facebook community, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe, rate, and review us on whatever app you're listening on. That's going to do it for this episode. Y'all take care, and God bless.